Silver Institute, and I would like to welcome you to today's training called Telehealth and Virtual Care, Holding a Safe Space for Youth and Families. After several years of providing telehealth and virtual care to youth and families, we are still learning about practices that work best for this modality of service delivery. One of the biggest challenges can be creating and maintaining a safe space for youth and their families as they work on issues that bring them to care. Today's webinar will help us learn practical techniques to truly hold the safe space for youth and families and yourself during your virtual sessions. You'll be learning about a variety of practices to support a safe space through the lens of the Alexander technique and somatic therapy. You will also participate in embodied exercises to sense safety and calm within yourself so that you can better translate this into working with your clients in a virtual setting. Before we get started, I just want to orient everyone to our Zoom webinar system if you haven't been with us before. So for today, please note that everybody is placed on mute to avoid any background noises. If you have any technical issues and need support, please chat to our host, Kiara, who will be able to assist you. Please submit any questions you have at any time. We will be collecting these through our chat, and we will have a Q&A at the end. For your best viewing experience, you can go to the top right corner and click View and click side-by-side :speaker. I'm so grateful to have our presenter, Elizabeth Castagna, to join us today. She and I know each other for many years. Elizabeth is born and raised in the Bronx. She is an incredible artist and has been an Alexander technique teacher for over 20 years, leading workshops and private sessions in New York City and the Hudson Valley. In her sessions, she provides a safe, creative space where her students deepen self-awareness, learn a mindful state, and embody a sense of wholeness, allowing them to connect to themselves, to others, and their environment in a new way. Elizabeth has participated in numerous workshops, I can tell you, many years of workshops to incorporate embodied techniques and practices into our framework that includes somatic therapy, craniosacral therapy, and Reiki. Without further ado, we're going to go to the next slide. We want to hear from you after I share the agenda. So here's our agenda. Elizabeth's going to take us through an embodied meditation. We're going to talk about the safe space. She will share steps for staying in connection. There are 3 steps she's identified. And then we're going to share around putting it all together. And I'm going to be participating with Elizabeth in an exercise. And then she'll share the benefits of holding a virtual safe space as a summary, share some resources, and then close with an embodied meditation. So to start our conversation, please chat into us. What is your biggest challenge regarding holding a virtual safe space for the youth and families you work with? What are some of the challenges that you've experienced? Privacy at their house, outside distractions. Yes. Privacy. Okay. Privacy. Holding their attention, lack of attention, maintaining the child's attention, people moving all around and multitasking, not engaged, feeling connected to there and getting them engaging, long silent times, pets, device type. Oh, this is so helpful. Thank you so much, everyone. Having them show up. Internet stability, connectivity, privacy. So I hear a lot of privacy, a lot of engagement challenges, and even connection and stability around kind of internet and things like that. Okay, distractions. Very helpful. Okay, we're going to keep those in mind as we move forward. I'll pass it on to you, Elizabeth.
Okay. Welcome everyone. I want to start by thanking Kara for inviting me to be a part of this webinar and to share the work that I'm doing in the virtual space. I want to thank the Community Technical Assistance Center at NYU's McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research for holding space for webinars like this and for all the support they're providing their community. I really appreciate hearing where everyone is from, and I just want to take this opportunity to just feel like the virtual circle that we're holding together, and just how we've expanded that circle pretty far. Then we can be in connection, even in this virtual space. So I'm going to invite you to a little meditation where we can kind of shift into sensing and in your body. You can have your eyes open or closed, but just allow your body to feel the support of the chair beneath you and the support of the floor underneath your feet. What is it like to let your body know that there's always something underneath you offering you support, fully willing and capable of receiving your energy and your presence? In embryology, as you were growing yourself, before any part of you could grow, the spaces were created first. And as there was more space for your arm, your hand would grow into it, and then growing into an arm. And so here we are on a Friday morning, having made space that we can inhabit together and grow within that space. What if you notice the light coming to your eyes easily? And what if you notice, allow your hearing to soften? What if you allow your breath to be unconscious? And notice the beating of your heart. What if you ask your back molars to let go of your gums? And what if you ask your inner ears to soften? And what if you allow your hands to feel their weight? And what if you ask your bodies to soften a little bit? Just making a conscious choice to shift into sensing, to this world and space of internal movement that's always there. Beautiful. And if your eyes were closed, just allow them to release open. And notice that the light is still coming to you easily. And that's how we see, it's just light reflecting. Notice the sounds that are in your space and the temperature of the air. Good. And welcome. Speaking of pets. Welcome to our webinar together. And just check in with your body after that little practice we just did, where we were just holding space for you. And that's really the place we start together when we ask the question, what is a safe space? A safe space begins with you. When you're meeting in the virtual space, your voice equals your safeness, and your presence equals your safeness. I used to, and I still do, work in person with clients. And while I'm working in person, a very big part of the practice that I do is how am I in myself as I bring hands-on to a client, as I'm sitting and speaking with a client. What is happening inside me in my presence? Because that gets conveyed through my touch, and it gets conveyed through my voice. So when the pandemic hit in 2020 and we all moved, many of us moved on to the virtual space, what I used to be able to do hands-on or just in the presence of a person, in person, I needed to figure out how to bring that to the virtual space. And that's when I began to realize that my voice is my touch, is my safeness, and my presence is my touch and my safeness. And how I am in myself and in my thoughts is what holds the virtual space and the safe space, even through the screen. We are this sensitive. And I think that's something that really came to the surface for me pretty quickly, is that we are this sensitive and that we can connect virtually through the screen, even just as we can in person. When we talk about you are the, it starts with you. We can think about like what makes up your you-ness. Taking care of you is the way you best hold a safe space for your client in the virtual session. We are whole, sensitive beings and can connect deeply, even virtually through the screen. When you shift, just pause a second and shift into your awareness of yourself. And I've kind of listed to the right some qualities people can have. Maybe you're very connected to your internal space and can feel sensation easily. Maybe you're someone who's very observant and can see details or subtle shifts that nobody else can see. Maybe you're someone who can hear and pick up on things that other people just brush over. Maybe you can sense space, temperature shifts, vibration. Just pause. I'm going to invite you to just pause a second and check in with yourself. And just notice, see what comes to the surface. What does your instinct show you that is a unique quality of yourself? Just check in and see what comes to you. Because these are things that, as we move further in the webinar, you're going to like have space for these to be available to you. And you can make a choice to kind of shift into a connection to these special qualities of yourself and use them in how you respond to your client. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to invite you into the chat. Where does your awareness usually land? Do you find on a daily basis that your awareness is always with your thoughts or on your mind and thinking? Or do you find your awareness with your body, sensing, feeling? Or do you find yourself doing both? You're in your mind and your body at the same time?
Most people are saying C, both, but some people are saying A.
Mhm.
And A or C, no B's only.
Great.
Yeah.
It's helpful to notice,
B,
as
B, sorry,
yes,
the B. Mhm.
it's helpful to notice where your tendency is and where your awareness tends to fall. Okay. All right. So your self-awareness impacts the safe space. And today we're going to learn a process for holding the safe space. You'll learn how to pause, deepen your self-awareness, stay with yourself, and be in connection with your client at the same time. When you can practice this process, it can take your work with your client deeper, as you will recognize what is happening in you during your session, and that self-awareness will inform your response to your client. This process will support you to be in an embodied, safe space while simultaneously connected to yourself and your client. As you deepen your sense of wholeness, unified body and mind, it supports your client to feel that in themselves. I want to say something in regards to just what I mentioned, especially when you're holding a safe space for children. And I heard a lot of you talking about them being distracted or the attention span. The children are really mostly sensing your presence and your tone. Like they'll more hear tone and respond to tone and presence than they will with what you're saying. So if your presence and your tone is holding an awareness of staying with yourself, they can feel that and respond to your commitment to that space. They may go and then they can come back. So we're going to take this a little deeper later, but I wanted to mention that here. So what makes up the safe space? As I've shared, you are at the center of holding a safe space. It's also a therapeutic space. Awareness of yourself and connection to yourself informs the connection to the person you are working with. As you find ease, safety, and support in yourself, you are best supporting your client to feel that in themselves. The mutual connection you have through mirror neurons is therapeutic for you both. So the more you take care of yourself, you are taking care of your client. The more you are in yourself, the more you'll have access to something different that you may not say if you were really not connected with yourself. and we'll get into this more deeply. So we're going to do just a quick overview of the steps before we dive into each one. So steps for holding a safe space during virtual care sessions. The first step is what we've been playing with, is just deepening your self-awareness. We pause, shift into sensing, bring your awareness to yourself and the support beneath you. There's already a shift there of going inward. Our second step is called a unified field of awareness, where you're expanding your awareness to include the space around you. You're including your senses, and you're including sensation inside you. When you're also including the space around you, that includes your client. So you're with yourself while you're with them in this unified field of awareness. The third step is called constructive thinking. And these are the thoughts that direct your awareness to consciously stay with yourself, embodied, connected, and safe. So we're going to spend a little more time with constructive thinking, because it's something that is helpful to experience together now, in case you have any questions about it. Okay. Is everyone okay out there? Okay. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to check in before we move on.
A lot of yeses. Very good.
All right.
Yes, very good, people are saying.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go on to step one, deepening your self-awareness. So you perceive the world through how it changes you. I don't think we always realize that for every experience, it goes into our cells and then gets recorded by our nervous system. But that's how we just take in the world through our perceptions, and it changes us. The process for holding a safe space begins with deepening your self-awareness. So you become more sensitive to the changes that are happening in you while you're with your client. What is happening in me as I'm with my client is at the forefront of your awareness. And let's think about awareness of yourself. So it's interesting, because you almost not let go of your client, but you, by how sensitive and how you are in yourself and connected to the changes happening you in response to what you're seeing in your client, you are helping them. And we'll go deeper. So I'm going to invite you to not read the screen with me on this. I know there's a lot that I'm saying that's written in the slides, but that's for references for later. But right now, just let yourself sit back in your chair if you're sitting, and you don't even need to look at the screen if you don't want to. We're just going to bring your awareness to your body. We're going to pause and notice the support of the chair beneath you and the support of the floor beneath your feet. Ask your body to soften. Allow your breath to be unconscious. Just letting your breath breathe you. And in this moment, notice the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your breath, and your connection to yourself. Everything we just shifted into is always there. There's always support. There's always your breath. There's always connection. What do you notice just by pausing and deepening your self-awareness? What shifts in the quality of your presence? Even if you're not looking at the screen, what is the relationship to what you're seeing or taking in? We really can connect to, like, what is this moment asking of me? As I'm here, what is actually needed to just really be with myself? Okay. We'll shift into step 2. Step 2 is a unified field of awareness, where you see in the illustration this little pale green little bubble has appeared around the figure. Since some sensation has shown up and the presence of heart is always there. But this is where you expand your awareness of yourself, which includes not only your body, but also your thoughts, your emotions, and your senses, along with how you perceive space and time. It includes your internal space, along with the external space and environment at the same time, which includes your client. We sometimes don't realize that our environment, the earth, space, is a big part of you and a part of us that we can embody and receive support from. So the space around us, if you bring your hands close together, and if you want to close your eyes, you can, or keep them open, but just notice the space between your hands. Allow your hands to soften, and just notice what you notice between your hands. You may feel like a magnetism or a buoyancy. Even play with moving it further and back, but in connection with each other. Notice what's happening to the space between your hands. And so that aliveness is actually all around us. It's all around in every direction. And it's in this way that the environment and space is also there for your support. A teacher of mine used to talk about it as, like, if you're looking at a fish, you can see just the fish. Or if you look at the fish, you can see the fish and the water at the same time. And that's what the unified field of awareness is, where you're sensing yourself, the physical support of the chair or the earth, the floor, but also the space around you. And I'm going to bring this into an experience. Again, I'll invite you to not look at the screen if you don't want to. Definitely no need to read along. But we're going to pause. Bring your awareness to yourself. And just ask the edges of your body to soften. And allow, so you're not a container for your weight and your energy. Just allow your energy to seep out past the edges of your body. even noticing just a few inches around you, moving in to support you, the front of you and the back of you. Notice the internal space of sensation inside you and the quality of your breath. In this unified field of awareness, notice the quality of your thoughts, your connection to yourself. And gently, if you're not looking at the computer screen, through this unified field of awareness, just gently glance at the screen. And what if you include the computer or the device in your awareness with yourself? Include me in your awareness at the same time. Yeah. And just take a notice of what is this experience of unified field of awareness for you. What changes in you with this kind of connection? Right, and we can sense through the screen. We're this sensitive. Good. Thank you. With this unified field of awareness, this is the space you respond to your client from, your patient or client, through this awareness. And a lot of times what you say will be very different than if you're only relying on your thinking or completely focused on only your client. Before we move on to step 3, I want to spend a little time with constructive thinking as support for a safe space. One of the tenets of this process is that we have self-agency. Within your unified field of awareness, you're able to direct your thinking, and in so doing, direct where your awareness goes. You're also able to make a conscious choice about the quality of your thoughts. What you are thinking about while you are with your client plays a part in the safe space you're holding for you both. So I want to bring us into a little exercise on how thinking affects your body and your sensory experience. So again, you don't need to be looking at the screen. You can just sit back in your chair if you're sitting. And I'm going to take you through 2 different experiences. And we'll take it from there. I don't want to say too much. Okay, so the first exercise, I'm going to ask you to ask your body, where do I seem tense right now? Okay. Where else do I seem tense? Where else do I seem tight? And just bring your awareness to these places. Where else do I seem tense? Where else do I seem tight? Where else do I feel tension? Where else do I feel tension. And lastly, where else do I feel tight? So bringing your awareness to these tight, tense, tension places. Notice how your body responds to where your thoughts are going, to the quality of your thoughts. For every thought, there's a corresponding body sensation. And so just notice the impact on your body when all you're thinking about is how tense you are, how tight you are, how much tension you have. And now pause. And feel the support of the chair or the couch, wherever you are. And now we're going to ask our bodies these other questions. Where do I seem to be easing a bit? Where do I seem to be softening? Where do I seem easy in my body? Where do I seem soft? Where do I feel space? Where do I feel space? Where do I seem to be easing? And pause and notice the response your body has to these questions and to the awareness of these thoughts, of space, of easing, of softening. Just letting your body know that there may be these tense places, but there's also places that feel different than that. That there are places of space, of softness, places that are easing. Begin to realize that you have a choice about what you think about. And whatever you think about is what you will get more of. So really noticing the connection between the quality of your thoughts while you're with your client and how the quality of those thoughts are actually changing your body and shifting your presence and sense of ease and safety in yourself, and how that presence is felt and communicated to your client. Through the last exercise, we're able to see the interface between thoughts and body. And I'll repeat, the quality of your thoughts are reflected in your body and vice versa. Your presence can shift through what you're thinking about in your field of awareness, and can be supportive to your client's safe space, just as those words and thoughts are supporting you to be more in your ease and in your safety, your softness, your space. It supports your client at the same time because you're embodying that for them. You have a choice about what you think about, and what you think about is what you'll get more of. The quality of thought, this quality of thought is called constructive thinking. Okay. And again, you can shift and just listen and stay with your thoughts, with yourself. Constructive thinking is like very kind, helpful thoughts that your cells are listening to, and it's moving into your nervous system, which changes the quality of your body. Constructive thinking is a mindful state you connect to while with your client. These are outside cues you give yourself that allow you to stay with your ease and safety, or they support you to come back to yourself easily when you've noticed you lost yourself. Once we're aware of what we are thinking, then we can make a choice to continue thinking them. So you're going to lose yourself. You're going to move more into a patterned way of being with your client, which may be for you being all focused on them, or just really being in your thinking, or including your body, but the quality that you're feeling is more about what you're worried about, or taking you more into a place of less connection. It's not to that. It's so if you lose yourself, then this quality of thought you come back to. So when you lose yourself, it becomes an opportunity to do your constructive thinking, to shift your awareness back to yourself and to your support. The process of, let's see if I should say this. I'm going to wait and say this. Okay. But I hope the constructive thinking piece is resonating, and that you feel like it's something that is making sense to you. I'm really enjoying the webinar space. It honestly is the first time that I haven't been able to see people. So I'm enjoying the sensing part of it and connecting and feeling my way through. So thank you. So just a quick review before we dive a little deeper. Our first step in holding a safe virtual space is deepening your self-awareness. Pause, shift into sensing, and bring your awareness to yourself and to your support. Yeah, we can do this together. Step 2 is, oh, what if I expand that awareness to a more unified field, which includes the space around you, your senses, and an umbrella of awareness goes out to your client at the same time. Yeah. Good. And then we add constructive thinking, which are the thoughts that direct our awareness to consciously stay with yourself, embodied, connected, and safe. And the constructive thinking piece is what we're going to expand upon next. I want to slow down for a second around the pause part, which is at the beginning of the very first step. Our ability to pause creates a space of new possibility and the space of new choices. And in that pause, we shift into sensing. So we have a stimulus, which is your virtual session. And then we have, how do we respond to that stimulus? And there might be a patterned way that you found that really worked, that you feel like this is what I always do. When I always do this, these are the challenges I have. I have challenges with attention, with distraction, with privacy. So when we have a stimulus and this response, and we put a pause, we have an opportunity to make a new choice, to kind of shift into these steps and then respond to our client through them, through that way. And that'll be a new response. It'll be coming from a new nervous system and a different presence. And then you can see how that feels and how your client responds to you when your presence shifts. So that's really the process. Is there's a stimulus, a response, and we're putting a pause before you can respond the way you've always responded. And we're bringing in these steps as an opportunity to see what it's like to respond to your client through there and hold this safe space. Okay. If I'm going fast, you can let me know. So, part B, constructive thinking. Okay. I think I've found that this is pretty unique to the Alexander technique world, as far as I know, but maybe not. Constructive thinking. The constructive thinking we will be using in these steps is a bit of what we did earlier, which is where do I seem to be easing a bit, which is based on the method of Alexander technique teacher Mio Morales. And he has a body of work called Primal Alexander, where we pause and ask that question, where do I seem to be easing a bit or softening? This is a question that we ask ourselves to enter a mindful state, to stay embodied, connected to our ease and safety within ourselves and in the space around us. So if I say the color yellow, like your nervous system got yellow, you may, like, how fast was that? It could have been the color yellow or banana, it could have been anything but yellow, sun. And what we're building is a trust in the speed of your nervous system, a speed in how your body responds to your questions. And so there's something called the cycle, which is a practice that we're going to do right now that I'm going to walk you through. It really helps you to begin to upload this question to your nervous system into your body through repetition, so that your body and nervous system begins to trust its response and begins to embody more of a place of ease and softening. So I'm going to guide you through the cycle, and it is a practice that we'll get to later in terms of how you can do this for yourself. So again, just kind of sit back in your chair. You don't need to look at the screen. But this is a practice called the cycle for good constructive thinking that we're going to be using. It'll take about 3 minutes to do. And I'm going to invite you to hold the thumb of one of your hands and just let it rest in your lap. And we're just going to pause. And we're going to ask the same question 4 times on each finger. And I'll guide you through, all the way through. So holding the thumb of your hand, we'll ask those questions. 1, where do I seem to be easing a bit? 2, where else do I seem to be easing a bit? 3, where else do I seem to be easing a bit? 4, where else do I seem to be easing a bit? Good, just letting your body answer those questions. Hold the pointer finger of the same hand. If your awareness is bringing you to places of tension, you can ask your body, where do I seem a little bit easier than this energy? Yeah. So 1, where do I seem to be easing a bit? Where else do I seem to be softening a bit? 3, where else? 4, where else? Holding the middle finger of the same hand. 1, where else do I seem to be easing a bit? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, where else do I seem to be easing a bit? Holding the ring finger of the same hand and just letting the places come to you. It could be the same place over and over. There's no right or wrong. 1, where else? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, where else? Holding the pinky of the same hand. Where else do I seem to be softening a bit? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, I wonder where else. Good. And now holding the thumb of the other hand. Just feeling the ease coming to you at the same time, thinking about less effort. Just trust your body. 1, where else do I seem to be softening a bit? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, where else? Holding the pointer finger of the same hand. 1, where else? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, where else? And holding the middle finger of the same hand. Where else do I seem to be easing a bit? 2, where else? 3, where else? 4, where else? Good. Ring finger. 1, where else? 2, where? 3, where? 4, where else? Last. Pinky. 1. Or else. 2. Or else. 3. Or else. 4. Where else do I seem to be easing a bit? Just take a moment and notice yourself. Those 40 places of ease and softening. Notice if there are any emotion or energy that's welled up. It could even be frustration. But also notice how your body is feeling now. Notice the quality of your thoughts, your relationship to the environment, and your breath. What you're reconnecting to is an underlying ease that's always there. Okay. So we're putting it all together. Thank you again, you all, so much. Let's see what it's like to bring the safe space process we've been learning into the virtual session setting. We'll have 3 different exercises as we move forward, where you'll have an opportunity to practice these steps, and I'll guide you through. Hello, Cara. Okay. So this first exercise, Cara is going to be your virtual client, and she's going to tell us a story, an experience she's had. For this first exercise, I want you to just forget everything we just did. Just all of your awareness is going to be with your client, nothing else. You're just focusing on her. And that's in the little picture, the green bubble around her is like all of your awareness is there. You're just listening to her. That's it. Okay, Karen.
A few weeks ago, my son was really sick. He had a fever of 104, and I couldn't leave his side. I was up all night, worried that something terrible might happen to him. The next days were the same. Finally, by day 3, his fever broke and he started to act like himself again. I realized this was a good reminder of how things come and go, how big feelings come and go, how experiences come and go, and how time comes and goes. And sometimes I get caught up in a moment and think it will last forever. I'm so grateful he's okay. I realize some people have this experience and their child isn't. So today I'll let gratitude come.
Great. Thank you, Kara. So in this second experiment, we're going to use the unified field of awareness where you sense yourself and your client at the same time. So this time when Kara tells a story, I want you to shift into your sensing, into the work we've been doing. Feel the support of the chair beneath you. Bring this field of awareness around yourself. Good. Soften in your body. And now expand that awareness to include your computer or your device along with Kara. So you're with yourself and your awareness. And you've expanded to include Kara. And as you hear her, you're with your self-awareness. Okay, Kara.
A few weeks ago, my son was really sick. He had a fever of 104 and I couldn't leave his side. I was up all night worried that something terrible might happen to him. The next few days were the same. But finally, by day 3, his fever broke and he started to act like himself again. I realized this was a good reminder of how things come and go, how big feelings come and go, how experiences come and go, and how time comes and goes. Sometimes I get caught up in a moment and think it will last forever. I'm so grateful he's okay. I realize some people have this experience and their child isn't. So today I'll let gratitude come.
Great. And so notice your experience of that, and in hearing the story while staying with yourself and your support and to sensations inside you as you heard her. In this next step, we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to be adding these external cues of constructive thinking in the background of your thoughts. As you hear Kara, you're going to be thinking, where else? You're going to let your seeing come to you and see not only your screen, but the space around it and yourself. Your thoughts are only with your softness in yourself. Where do I seem to be easing as you hear her at the same time? And just trust your pace. And you can begin, Kara.
A few weeks ago, my son was really sick. He had a fever of 104 and I couldn't leave his side. I was up all night worried that something terrible might happen to him. The next few days were the same, but finally by day 3, his fever broke and he started to act like himself again. I realized this was a good reminder of how things come and go, how big feelings come and go, how experiences come and go, and how time comes and goes. Sometimes I get caught up in a moment and think it will last forever. I'm so grateful my son is okay. I realize some people have this experience and their child isn't. So today I'll let gratitude come.
Thank you, Kara. So I'm curious, just notice what your experience was like. Notice if the quality of your hearing shifted. Notice if any new sensations or awareness came in to yourself. Notice what that was like to add your thinking and the directing of your thoughts as you were with Kara. And Kara, I want to hear if you sensed any shift as we shifted our awareness, what your experience was.
I did. I actually really did. The first time, I guess the second and third time, I felt like my words were being held differently, if that makes sense. So yes, I absolutely noticed a difference. And between 2 and 3, I guess maybe in the third experience, it wasn't. I felt like I could get caught up in my words in the second experience. Like they were being held, but I could maybe get caught up in them. And in the third experience, I could feel them more release, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And you may have noticed while you were doing the practice of using your constructive thinking that there may have been an experience of all of your awareness falling away of yourself and going to Kara. But just even noticing that is an opportunity to just shift back into your awareness and just let what she's saying come to you. And just the coming back to yourself counts. How you do that really matters. And that's a part of the repatterning process. it's almost like you're driving down, you're driving, and all of a sudden you feel yourself sway off the road, and then you're like, oh, where am I? You come back to yourself. How you come back to the road matters. It counts how you do that. And that's a part of the repatterning process. Like, oh, all of my awareness went to Kara. I completely lost myself. I lost track. Okay, well, hello, where's my support? And I shift back into my awareness. Where do I seem to be softening a bit or easing? And then you're back. It's an ease and an awareness that's already there. We just have to shift back into it. What did you notice? Which experience did you feel most connected to yourself, and the client? If you want to put that into the chat, or you can.
Andy, well, we had a few chats already. Oriana shared that was an interesting experience to be actively calming my body while listening to her story. And Andy shared the first time I was a bit caught up in listening, but actually thinking what question I was going to ask the client next. But in iterations 2 and 3, I felt more with my client.
I'm wondering if anyone, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And I'm wondering if anyone sensed emotions differently. I felt, for me, the emotions, I felt like emotions well up in mostly the third version. I didn't know if anyone sensed that in themselves. But I really love what you were saying about the first time thinking about what you're going to say, versus being with yourself and responding from that space. It's going to be a different response. So just quickly, there's something called points of light, which on a continuum, thank you, Kara, on the arc of a session, there'll be times where we can tend to lose ourselves. And those are moments where you can bring in your constructive thinking, your unified field of awareness. And those points of light tend to be right before a session starts. So you're already with yourself when you go on screen. A little bit after a session starts, midway through the session, somewhere as it's winding down, we just tend to like, sorry. And then right after your session ends, it's like next thing. But it's really helpful to stay with yourself, even through before and after the session, just to help with your own personal transitions. Repetition perfects grace in your daily practice. Deepening your trust in this process takes practice and repetition. Find a time during your day to practice these steps so that when you are on a virtual session, the practice of staying with yourself, holding a safe space is right there with you. Practicing the cycle daily uploads the awareness of ease to your nervous system and is a foundational practice to the safe space process. You can also teach the cycle to your clients, empower them by adding it to your session time. You can think about bringing your self-awareness, these steps, while you're doing very mundane things, like you're waiting in the line to buy coffee, you're speaking with the person you're buying it from, you're brushing your teeth, unloading the dishwasher. There are a lot of times I use it in response to my son, like where I know I need to speak to him, and on my way to his room, which isn't very far, I'm doing the cycle, or I'm feeling the support. And a lot of times when I show up in his presence, what I say was very different than what I thought I would say. and it comes from a very different place. So that's really helpful. So your daily practice, what that is the steps that we've been going through: deepening your self-awareness, unified field of awareness, and your constructive thinking. I had an experience with a client once where he was really stuck, and I was really stuck in what would be the best way to support him. And he was really quiet, and he was sitting there, and I was in my awareness doing the cycle and being with myself. What was coming up in me helped inform what I wanted, what I could say to him, or the question I could ask him. So you may begin to notice like a tightening in your throat or a sensation in your belly. And that can be a question of like asking your client, how is your throat right now? Or what are you noticing in your belly right now? Like, so that's how this self-awareness can help inform your response to your client. Kara, I know we're running a little long. I could read through these benefits, or maybe just leave them there if you feel you want to move on to the Q&A, because I know we were allotting this amount of time for that.
Do you have any last thoughts around summary that you want to share?
Let's see if there's anything here that I just kind of talked about in connection to your body wisdom. Oh, it's also really helpful that you can make a conscious, it empowers you to make a conscious choice to change the direction of your presence. If you're going into a session feeling tired, stressed, distracted, feeling like you have not that much ease in your body, you can pause and begin this process and actually restore yourself, feel restored and ready for your session. You can also teach this process to your client, the cycle, and empower them to be able to do it for themselves. And then it really helps you to co-regulate with your client as they feel a connection and a support by you, so that they can learn to regulate themselves. I think those are good.
Thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. And thank you everyone for attending to today's exercises and presentation, and really giving this a go. I think this has been really incredible to really experience. You know, in some ways, what in working with Elizabeth for this presentation, I realized this is actually somatic experiencing with the self. And what a beautiful way to learn this. So thank you for being here. We do have a few questions that came in, and you can feel free to chat others. And some of these are based upon your earlier challenges. So one question is really about, how do I keep safety in myself when my client is really struggling with privacy?
I'm not sure I understand struggling with privacy. What does that mean?
So if if there's not a lot of privacy in our session, like there are a lot of people around in the background, when I'm trying to work with my client, how do we keep the sense of safety in our space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you embody that in your presence, you can actually notice what you say to that client while you're in your safe space and you're feeling supported in themselves. And you can feel the difference in how their space is and how your space is. And notice what you ask them from that space. And if you can connect to what you're seeing, and what's happening in you. And ask them questions. What do you notice about your environment? How is it for you to have people moving around your space when we're wanting to connect? What would be helpful for you to have more privacy? And really begin to empower them to respond to what they're noticing. And they may say, it doesn't bother me, right? So then that's a cue for you to stay with yourself and take care of your presence and just go about the session. It might be that it's distracting for you, all the movement and the lack of privacy. It may not be that for them, or they may not realize it. So when you are with yourself and you're with your client, you have a choice about that field of awareness, and it doesn't need to include the busyness around them for you. You're just with your client and yourself, and that's where your responsibility is. You don't need to expand to include the busyness around them. Your field of awareness will be with yourself and your client. But so first find out about how it's feeling for them, and if it is actually distracting, and if it is, empowering them to help them with the decision-making process to how can we shift this. If it's not bothering them, and it may be bothering you, then you have a choice about what you bring your awareness to and what you think about. So that's a way to address that kind of space.
Thank you. And that also seems like a way you would address any kind of outside distraction in general.
Yeah, because everything is energy. So like if there's like, oftentimes I'll have like construction or like loud noises, but everything is energy, and it can go into the background of the field of your awareness, so you can receive support from it. So it's more about your response to the distraction than the distraction itself. That will determine the direction it goes in. So if you're looking at it and it's bothersome, it's going to be bothersome. But if you're just taking it in as energy, then it'll be in that realm.
Thank you. What about, how do I manage moments of silence in our virtual space?
Oh, I actually love silence. I love silence. There's never nothing. So even in silence, there's the ambient sounds around it. There's the vibration of silence. It's an opportunity for you to just be with yourself, doing your constructive thinking, feeling your support and your space. And they may be processing, everyone's organization pace, your body and mind learn at different paces. And a lot of times when I've noticed I'm just going to hold space and in the silence, the client just moves in a way I didn't expect, or says something that I had no idea they were going to say. I think a lot of time that silence is like a pause where there might be processing happening, and not to assume it's a disconnect, but really staying in your body and what's welling up in you in that silence, and seeing how you respond or what happens next.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Someone chatted in, is feeling the unified field of awareness a form of grounding?
If it felt grounding to you, it is. I find it grounding in that it's support. It's a reciprocity. and a connection to the giving and receiving that's always happening. And a lot of times when we get caught up in our thinking or intention, we wind up self-supporting ourselves and we think there's nothing else and I've got to do it all, or I've got to figure this out. But there's always something underneath you offering you support, and opening up to that reciprocity of giving and receiving can feel very grounding, can feel very connected. So yeah, that's a great question. I would feel it in that way. Yeah.
Thank you. Someone just chatted in, Oriana chatted in. Can you speak to telehealth sessions done by phone? Does the same process apply to phone sessions?
Yes, actually, I was going to thank you for saying that. Before the pandemic and everything went virtual, I was doing some phone sessions, and I would get off of them and I would be like, whoa, that wasn't that different than in person. It is the same. You're not going to have the visual, but you're going to still have yourself and the support and it's the same practice. And I really love phone sessions. They're even just not having the visual piece, even doing it with my eyes closed. Yeah, it's really nice, but you would be the same process. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Is it possible for these exercises to bring up any past traumas within us?
For yourself, yeah. Yeah, I think that's why we practice. Because when you're looking for places that are softening and easing, right, there's holding patterns falling away. Things begin to move and have opportunity to be felt. So you can begin to feel an emotion or have a memory come to you. And I think that's number two, is that you have support for yourself to express what you've noticed to somebody so that you can continue processing. But that's why you practice, so that when you're with your client, you can begin to take care of yourself and know. And there's a certain knowing that I guess the worry is, would something well up in a session while you're with another person? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've had that happen in myself, where someone touches on something in me. And that's where I use my skill and wisdom to put that in a place during the session, go back to a place that feels a little bit easier than that in my body, to a place that seems a little bit softer, and bring me back to the present, because it's not the space to let that fully well up. I don't think it's really tricky. Some people, if someone lets their client know, like, this is happening to me, I don't know, but it's a great question. And this is what I've done. And then I meet it in myself after the session, if that's welled up. But also, if you're practicing, you'll have opportunity for these things to meet them in the moment, and they tend to not show up in these other places, or they resolve themselves. And it's a great question, and it is such a delicate balance in a place that I've navigated in myself. And have made those kind of choices in the moment. I hope I'm answering this well. It's such
Yes.
a great question.
Yes, I think you are. I think I love this notion of meeting it later.
Yeah.
Noticing and still meeting it, but maybe meeting it later. And also that this is these practices are also self-care, like embodied self-care, that you're caring for yourself during the time with the client. And but also because there's this emergent process, some things may come up that we're not necessarily realize that they may come up, right?
And that's where you realize I have a choice about what I think about in this moment. Not to be cold to yourself or anything, but to actually realize where you are. And in this moment, I have a choice about what I'm thinking about. Maybe you pause, I need the restroom, or you take care of yourself if that feels like it's possible to just say, excuse me, I need to use the restroom, I'll be right back. Just let yourself breathe, put water on your face, wash your hands, and come back to the session. You have these choices of time and space, and it won't take as long as you think it will, but you'll come back more restored and connected in yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing your gifts. Do you mind going to the next slide?
Oh, yeah.
Alche did ask about how you arrange the space to create a safe environment. Is there anything like in your virtual space that you recommend as we move for people to see these upcoming events?
Yes, you can have a little post-it that has where else do I seem to be easing a bit, like little visual aids, like what if I feel the support? And I thank you for asking that question, and because a scent that you really love, if you love flowers, anything that you feel supportive to you energetically, would be great to have around you. And the visual aids, yeah, definitely. Anything that connects you to your senses, a beautiful color, and scent, things like that.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you. So please join us, everyone. Thank you so much to you, Elizabeth, again, for
Thank
all of your
you.
hard work and for sharing your gifts with us. We have some amazing events coming up. We have Navigating Narcissism, Working with Youth and Families, a conversation with Wendy Bahari on Monday. So please join us. We have a conversation about healing and forgiveness with Inabel B. Tipo, and that's January 11th. And then we're going to have a 3-hour training on schema therapy with Wendy Bahari for narcissistic personality disorder, tools for clinicians working with youth and families. So everyone, we hope you are well, and we look forward to seeing you soon, and have a great weekend. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.